بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Now we want to have a closer look at the hadith about Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, to give you an idea about the diversity of these hadiths with respect to the topics that they cover and with respect to the infallible, to the ma'soom from whom these hadiths are narrated, and also those who have narrated these hadiths from ma'soom. You remember we said one of the great works on hadith about Imam Mahdi is Muntakhabul Athar fil Imam al-Thani Ashar by late Ayatollah al-Uzma Safiya Gulpaigani, who just passed away a few weeks ago. He was son-in-law of late Ayatollah al-Uzma Gulpaigani, a great student of Ayatollah al-Uzma Burujerdi. So in Muntakhabul Athar we find these hadith, and I try to be very quick. For example, hadith that say Imams are 12. There are 271 hadith that say Imam are 12, and if we consider unique hadith, because some of them are the same, reported by several people, there are 81 unique, means without repetition, hadiths that indicate that Imams are 12. Hadiths which say Imams are equal to the number of Nuqaba Bani Israel, which are 12. There are 40 hadiths, and after removing repetitions, 24. Hadith which says Imams are 12 and the first is Imam Ali, 133 hadiths, and these are 4 hadiths which are so much narrated that have 133 reports of them. Hadiths which say Imams are 12, the first is Imam Ali and the last is Imam Mahdi. The previous one was saying Imams are 12 and the first is Imam Mahdi. Doesn't say about the last one. This one says the first is Imam Mahdi and the last is Imam Mahdi. 91 hadiths. 11 are unique. So it means these 11 hadith are reported by different authors, different narrators, 91 times. Hadiths which say Imams are 12 and the last one is Imam Mahdi. 94 hadith, which is one hadith but reported 94 times. Hadith which says Imams are 12 and 9 of them are progeny of Imam Hussein. 139, unique 36. And this continues. You know, if I want to read for you just the titles, there are 100 just titles. I just only mentioned some of them because if I want to mention all the 100 takes time. But the good news is that we are translating also this book which is about hadith in Shia, Imam Mahdi hadith in Shia Sunni, and inshallah, hopefully, bi'aznallah, with your dua, this also should become available inshallah soon. For example, hadith which says Imams are 12 and they are progeny of Imam Hussein and the 9th of them is Imam Mahdi. 50 hadith, 36 unique. Hadith which mention the names of all 12 Imams, 50. Unique also 50. Hadith which gives bashara of coming of Imam Mahdi, 657 hadith, unique 103. Hadith which says the name of Imam Mahdi is the name same as name of the Prophet. His kunya nickname is the same as the kunya of the Prophet, and he resembles the Prophet the most and acts according to Sunnah of the Prophet. 48 hadith, unique 8. Hadith which talk about physical appearance of Imam Mahdi, 21. Unique 5. Hadith which say he is from progeny of Amirul Mu'minin, 214. Unique 5. Hadith which says his progeny of Lady Fatima Zahra, 192. Unique 10. Hadith which says he is a progeny of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, because you know Imam Baqir's mother is progeny of Imam Hassan. So Imams after Imam Baqir, they are progeny of both Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Hadith which say that he is the 9th Imam from progeny of Imam Hussein, 148. Hadith which says Imam Mahdi is from Imam Zainul Abidin, 185. Hadith, unique 1. He is a progeny of Imam Baqir, progeny of Imam Sadiq, progeny of Imam Kazim, Imam Reza, Imam Jawad, Imam Hadi. Hadith which says the name of his father is Hassan. Hadith which says that he has 2 occultations. One is shorter, the other is longer. 10, unique 9. Hadith which says he has long ghaibah till Allah gives permission, 91. And unique 22. Hadith about his life is long, 318 hadith. Hadith which says he looks young, 8 hadith and unique 6. Hadith which says his birth is hidden, 14. Unique 8. Hadith which says that he has not given bay'ah to anyone, 10 and unique 3. Hadith about people would, obey him. Hadith about his conduct, about his zuhd and, simple life, about his knowledge, about his generosity, about having legacies of the prophets. Hadith about Isa alayhi salam, following him in salat. Hadith about his birth. Hadith about his Nawab, about those who have seen him. So many hadiths. As I said, just in Muntakhabul Athar, Ayatullah al-Uzma Safi Gul Paigani has all these hadiths, about 100 topics in just one book by Ayatullah al-Uzma Safi Gul Paigani. Another thing which might be interesting for you is that according to Muntakhabul Athar, there are 6,036 hadiths that he has collected. In Mu'jamu Ahadith al-Imam al-Mahdi, which I showed you the bibliography of it, it says there are 560 hadiths from the Prophet, 130 hadiths from Amirul Mu'minin, 9 hadiths from Imam Hussein, 9 hadiths from Imam Hassan, 9 hadiths from Imam Hassan, 10 hadiths from Imam Hussein, 22 from Imam Sajjad, 60 hadiths from Imam Baqir, 297 hadiths from Imam Sadiq, 19 hadiths from Imam Kazim, 30 hadiths from Imam Reza, 9 hadiths from Imam Jawad, 13 hadiths from Imam Hadi, 42 hadiths from Imam Askari, plus there are 130 tawqi and du'as from Imam Mahdi. And as I said, in 8 volumes they bring these hadiths. Another thing that is interesting is that we have more than 60 companions of the Prophet, Ashabun Nabi, including Ahlul Bayt and non-Ahlul Bayt. More than 60 companions of the Prophet from whom these hadiths from the Prophet are reported. Like Ma'adh ibn Jabal, Qutadah ibn Nu'man, Umar ibn Khattab, Abu Dharr Ghifari, Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, Uthman ibn Affan, the third Khalifa, the second Khalifa, Salman Farsi, Talhat ibn Ubaidullah, Huzayfat ibn Yaman. More than 60 of companions. If I want to read all of them, it takes time. Interesting is that some of them had long life. For example, the last companion of the Prophet who died is a person called Abu Tufail. Abu Tufail, it's said that died in the year 100 after Hijrah. 100 years after Hijrah he died. He has reported hadith from Prophet about Imam Mahdi. Anas ibn Malik, who died 93 after Hijrah, has hadith from Prophet about Imam Mahdi. And all others. Inshallah, when the book is published, you will have access to all these. There are another thing, but again interesting, is that there are Sunni scholars of hadith who say these hadiths are sahih. Some say even they say it's mutawatir. For example, in Manaqib al-Shafi'i by Muhammad Hussein Shafi'i, who died in 363, very close to the time of birth of Imam Mahdi. Imam Mahdi was born 255, so the next century. He says hadith of that give bishara of coming of Mahdi are mutawatir. Qurtubi Maliki, again the same. Ibn Qayyim, he says it's mutawatir. Ibn Hajar Asqalani, Suyuti, Ibn Hajar Haytami, Muhammad Rasul Barzaji, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Ali Subban, they all say these hadiths are mutawatir. And many of them, they say these are sahih, like Tirmidhi in his Sunan, Hakim al-Nayshaburi in Mustadrak, Ibn Asir in Nihaya, Qurtubi Maliki in At-Tadhkira. So this is also interesting. Now let us go to the contents and try to see what in a general way we can talk. Detailed discussion inshallah comes later. The hadith that we have specifically about Imam Mahdi, I am not talking about hadith Saqalain, I am not talking about hadith of 12 people who come after the Prophet as leaders. I am not talking about man mata wa lam ya'rif imam al-zaman. These are things that you know. We are talking about things that specifically we find about Imam Mahdi. There are issues that Sunni and Shia agree. These topics are agreed upon by Sunni and Shia. One, the idea of Al-Mahdi in principle, the doctrine in itself, is agreed upon by Sunni and Shia. And for example, Ibn Hajar Asqalani, he says تواترت الأخبار بأن المهدي من هذه الأمة. Akhbar, hadith are mutawatir that Mahdi is from this ummah. Qadi Shawkani says هي متواترة بلا شك ولا شبهة. So about the idea in principle, no doubt, no disagreement. Number two, we must believe in Al-Mahdi. Again, Sunni and Shia say every Muslim must believe in Al-Mahdi. There is no doubt about this. For example, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Saddiq, a Sunni scholar, he says Al-Imanu bi khurujihi wajib wa i'tiqadu zuhurihi tasdiqan li khabar al-Rasul muhattam. He says to believe in his uprising is obligatory, and to believe in his appearance as confirmation of the hadith of the Prophet is necessary. And other Sunni scholars, they all have said, even Wahhabis, although they may disagree in many issues with other Muslims, they also have issued statements that this is an Islamic understanding and everyone should believe. Number 3, the third thing that Muslims, Sunni, Shia agree upon about Imam Mahdi is that his mission is universal and his governance is going to be universal. Sunni and Shia hadith support this. Number 4, again, what you find common among Sunni and Shia is coming of Isa alayhi salam, descent of Isa alayhi salam, nuzul. For Isa alayhi salam, we don't use zuhur because Isa is not in ghaib. Rafa'ahullah. Allah has raised him, so he has to descend. Nuzul. Imam Mahdi is in occultations. For him, we use zuhur. Zuhur of Imam Mahdi, nuzul of Isa, mentioned by Sunni and Shia. For example, Abu Hurairah quotes from the Prophet, كيف أنتم إذا نزل ابن مريم فيكم وإمامكم منكم. How would you be when the son of Mary descends and your imam is from you? This is from Sunni source. Abu Basir quotes from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, وَيَنْزِلُ رُوحُ اللَّهِ عِيسَى بْنُ مَرْيَمْ فَيُصَلِّي خَلْفَهُ. Ruhullah, Jesus, the son of Mary, would descend and would say his prayer behind Imam Mahdi. So, nuzul of Isa and saying his prayer with Imam is agreed by Sunni and Shia. Khasful Bayda, which is one of the signs of zuhur, you find it in Sunni and Shia hadith. For example, we have this hadith from Aisha, from Prophet, يغزو جيش الكعبة فإذا كانوا ببيداء من الأرض يخسف بأولهم وآخرهم. An army would move towards Kaaba to destroy and conquer Kaaba. When they arrived the land of Bayda, the earth would swallow them. This is from Sunni sources. We have similar that Jabir quotes from Imam Baqir. فَيَنْزِلُ أَمِيرُ جَيْشِ السُّفْيَانِ الْبَيْدَى. The commander of the army of Sufyani comes to the land called Bayda, and then the earth would swallow them. Sunni and Shia have narrated this. Another thing that Sunni and Shia have agreement on is that his name is Al-Mahdi. Although it's not his name, it is his laqab, his title. Al-Mahdi means the one who is guided. So Sunni and Shia say that his title is Al-Mahdi. For example, in Sunni sources they have this, إنما سمي المهدي لأنه يهدى لأمر خفي. He is called Mahdi because he will be guided to something which is hidden, khafi. Or for example, we have this that قلت لأبي عبد الله عليه السلام from Shia sources. That one from Sunni. قلت لأبي عبد الله المهدي والقائم واحد. I said Mahdi and Qa'im are the same. Imam said نعم. فقلت لأي شيء سمي المهدي. Then why he is called Mahdi? قال لأنه يهدى إلى كل أمر خفي. So the same thing that we have in Sunni hadith, we have in Shia. 7. The seventh point that Sunni and Shia hadith agree upon is that Allah has support and assistance for Mahdi. In Sunni sources, Abu Huraira quotes from the Prophet, لا تقوم الساعة حتى تقاتل اليهود حتى يقول الحجر. So there is a hadith how even the rock would talk and introduce enemies. Abu Basir from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam also talks about in this way. From in the Shia sources says that حتى أن لو كان كافرا أو مشركا في بطن صخرة. If an enemy of truth is inside a rock, the rock would say يا مؤمن في بطني كافر فاكسرني. So there are some support also, although the thing is not happening through mu'jiza. Even Rasulullah in his time, if he had victory, was not through mu'jiza, and he had losses, but assistance of Allah is always there. Even we, if we do our things properly, Allah helps us, but not that we do nothing and just miracles sort out problems. So in the time of Imam Mahdi, assistance is there, imdad is there, but people have to work. Number 8, the 8th topic that you find common among Sunni and Shia is sun rising from the west. One of our scholars who passed away a few months ago, Ustaz Muhammad Reza Hakimi, has a book, Khurshid Maghreb. It's a very good book in Farsi about Imam Mahdi. He called it Khurshid Maghreb, sun of the west. So we have in Sunni and Shia hadith. For example, in Sunni sources, in Sahih Bukhari. Inshallah, we will have a discussion about Sahih Muslim and Bukhari. In Sahih Muslim and Bukhari that we have today, there is no mention of Al-Mahdi. But still they have hadith about Imam Mahdi. Some people thought they have no hadith about Imam Mahdi. No, they don't have the name. For example, this hadith in Sahih Bukhari. لا تقوم الساعة حتى تطلع الشمس من مغربها. The day of judgment would not come unless sun would rise from her west when sets, the place of setting. Sun would rise from the place of setting. فإذا طلعت فرأها الناس آمنوا أجمعون. When people see this, then all will believe. All will believe. Although it might be too late if they have not truly believed. 9. Mahdi is from the progeny of Lady Fatima. Is the progeny of Lady Fatima. Sunni and Shia have said this. For example, in Sunan of Abu Dawud and in Ghaybat by Sheikh Tusi. Sunan of Abu Dawud, one of Sahih of Sunni brothers, and Ghaybat of Sheikh Tusi. We have this from Lady Salama. That Prophet said, Al-Mahdi min itrati min wulde Fatima. So Sunni and Shia have this. Also, about appearance of Imam, how he looks, how his face looks, how his forehead looks. Even we have similarities in Sunni and Shia hadith. Number 11, abundance of Allah's bounties in that time. We have from Sunni and Shia. For example, Rasulullah, according to what Abu Sa'id al-Khudri quotes, said that people, my ummah, will be blessed by Allah in the way that they are not blessed before. And there would be lots of money at that time. And someone would say to Mahdi, "O Mahdi, a'tini, give me." And Imam said, "Take." So everyone who has need, Imam would give. We have also similar in Shia sources. For example, Nu'mani in his Ghayba quotes from Amir al-Mu'mineen that a person says to Imam Mahdi, "Ya Mahdi, ahd a'tani fayaqulu khudh." Mahdi, give me, and he says, take. Another thing which is common between Sunni and Shia is that people would give bay'ah to him between Rukn and Maqam Ibrahim. Between Rukn and Maqam Ibrahim. For example, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal quotes from the Prophet, يُبَايَعُ لِرَجُلٍ مَا بَيْنَ الرُّكْنِ وَالْمَقَامِ. Bay'ah will be given to a person between Rukn and Maqam. In the Shia source we have from Imam Baqir, يُبَايَعُ الْقَائِمِ بَيْنَ الرُّكْنِ وَالْمَقَامِ. يُبَايِعُ الْقَائِمِ بَيْنَ الرُّكْنِ وَالْمَقَامِ 300 وَنَيِّف. Between Rukn and Maqam, some 300 people will give bay'ah to him. عِدَّةُ أَهْلِ بَدْرِ. Their number is equal to the people who took part in the Battle of Badr. Muslims in the Battle of Badr, there were 313. 13, another common topic. Universal justice. يَمْلَأُ الْأَرْضَ قِسْطًا وَعَدْلًا كَمَا مُلِئَتْ جَوْرًا وَظُلْمًا. Sunni Shia have narrated this many times. Number 14. Sunni and Shia have this hadith that his name is the same as the Prophet. His name is Muhammad. Sunni and Shia have this. His kunya is the same as the Prophet. For example, Sunni say, لا تذهب أو لا تنقذ الدنيا حتى يملك العرب رجل من أهل بيتي يواطئ اسمه اسمي. This world would not finish or expire unless a man would rule the Arabs from my family. His name is similar to my name. Imam Sadiq quotes from Prophet, القائم من ولدي اسمه اسمي وكنيته كنيتي وشمائله شمائلي وسنته سنتي. Qa'im is from my progeny, his name is my name, his nickname is my nickname, his appearance is like me, and his sunnah is my sunnah. He would act according to my sunnah. So these 14 are some topics that Sunni and Shia hadith have agreement upon. But there are some issues that Shia and Sunni hadith may not have agreement. For example, about birth of Imam Mahdi, they may have disagreement. Although there are Sunni scholars who say Imam Mahdi was born and he's the son of Imam Askari, but some of them, they don't have these hadith, and they have some hadith in their own sources that for us, of course, they are not authentic, that may suggest something else. For us, it is very clear that he was born and he is the son of Imam Askari alayhi salam. Inshallah, because we have a special discussion about birth of Imam Mahdi, I will talk about this topic later, because we have a special discussion about birth of Imam Mahdi. About his nasab, there is disagreement with some Sunni scholars of hadith. For example, some Sunni scholars, they say he is a progeny of Imam Hassan and not Imam Hussein. Some who have done research, they say they have only one hadith that says he is the progeny of Imam Hassan. In Sunan of Abu Dawud, we have this. Please listen carefully. I already gave you the answer, of course, the explanation. قال علي ونظر إلى ابنه الحسن. They say Imam Ali looked at his son Hassan and said, إن ابني هذا سيد كما سماه النبي. He's a Sayyid, as the Prophet called him. وسيخرج من صلبه رجل يسمى باسم نبيكم يشبهه في الخلق. From his progeny, a man would come whose name is the same as your Prophet and would resemble the Prophet in his appearance. So, because of this one hadith, some of them said he is a progeny of Imam Hassan and not Imam Hussein. But the thing is that Jazri Shafi'i has narrated the same hadith from Abu Dawood, but in his version, instead of Hassan, says Hussein. So this may be a typo that, Hassan and Hussein are very similar in writing, especially when they had no dots. Initially they didn't write dots. So maybe it was Hussein was mistakenly read Hassan. This is one possibility. Plus, this hadith has problems in Sanat, in the chain of narrators, because all the narrators up to the Prophet and Amirul Mu'mineen are not mentioned. Up to the Amirul Mu'mineen, which is calling from the Prophet. So up to Amirul Mu'mineen, all the narrators are not available. And even some say that some of these people are not known. But I think what makes it very simple and easy, in addition to the mistake, is that, as I said, from Imam Baqir alayhi salam, all our Imams are progeny of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Because Imam Baqir's mother, which is wife of Imam Zainul Abidin, goes back to Imam Hassan. So this is not an issue. Especially when you have many hadiths that say he is from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Some of the great Sunni scholars who have said he's progeny of Imam Hussein, Allama ibn Qutayba ad-Din Wali, who died in 276. He says Mahdi is progeny of Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. Hafiz Abul Hasan Ali ibn Umar Darqutni Shafi'i, who died 385. He says Al-Mahdi is progeny of Imam Hussein. Hafiz Abu Nahim Iswahani, who died 430. He says Mahdi is progeny of Imam Hussein. Kharazmi, Khatib Kharazmi, who died 586. He says Mahdi is progeny of Imam Hussein. Sheikh al-Islam Abu al-Ala Attar Hamadani, who died 569. Ibn Abil Hadid al-Mu'tazili, who died 650. All say is from Imam Hussein. So this is not a big issue. Just one hadith. Because of this, some people said he's progeny of Imam Hassan and not Hussein. They made mistake. And there is explanation for this. Another issue is that some people say, why the name of Mahdi is not mentioned in Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari. Our Sunni brothers have 6 books that they consider as Sahih, Sihah Sittah. And they say all the hadiths in these books are authentic. But then among them they prefer Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari. And among Sahih Muslim Bukhari, some prefer Sahih Bukhari, some prefer Sahih Muslim. They say, why we have in Ibn Majah, we have it in Abi Dawood, but we don't have in Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari. The answer is, first of all, Bukhari himself says, he says, there are many Sahih hadiths that I have not mentioned. Therefore, no Sunni scholar says that only hadiths in Sahih Bukhari are Sahih and the rest are not Sahih. Actually, to the opposite. Many Sunni scholars have tried to bring Sahih hadiths which are not mentioned in Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari. Like Hakim Naysaburi has Mustadrak Sahihain. Mustadrak means what is missing in Sahih Muslim and Bukhari, and according to the conditions of Bukhari and Muslim are Sahih, they have mentioned. So there is no such a thing that if something is Sahih Muslim and Bukhari, it's Sahih. If it's not there, it's not Sahih. They themselves believe in 6 Sahih, not 2 Sahih. This is point 1. As an example, our Sunni brothers believe in idea of Ashariyya Mubashariyya bil Jannah. They say there are 10 people, Ashara, 10 people that Rasulullah promised them heaven. We don't believe in this hadith. Our Sunni brothers very much believe in this hadith. But this hadith is not mentioned in Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari. Another thing is that Many hadiths about Imam Mahdi are in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. I showed you also the picture. The thing is that they have not mentioned the name Al-Mahdi. Otherwise, they have many hadiths that commentators of Sahih Muslim and Bukhari, they say these hadiths are about Al-Mahdi. The name is not mentioned. And something which is also very surprising, is that we have, for example, this hadith, Al-Mahdi haqqun wa huwa min wuld Fatima. Mahdi is haqq, is true idea, and he's from progeny of Lady Fatima. You don't find this hadith in Sahih Muslim. Okay? Today, if you check Sahih Muslim, you don't find this hadith. But 4 Sunni scholars, they quoted in their books this hadith from Sahih Muslim. Ibn Hajar Haytami in As-Sawa'iq al-Muhraqa, Bab 11, first chapter, quotes this hadith from Sahih Muslim. We go to Sahih Muslim, we don't find it. Al-Muttaqi al-Hindi in Kanzul Ummal, volume 14, quotes this hadith from Sahih Muslim. Sheikh Muhammad Ali Subban, who died 1206, quotes in Is'af al-Raghibin this hadith from Sahih Muslim. Sheikh Hassan Adwi Hamzawi Maliki, who died 1303, quotes from Sahih Muslim. So up to 1303 at least, this was available for them in Sahih Muslim. Why we don't find it? We don't know. Were there different versions of Sahih Muslim? There were different editions? I don't know. So, first of all, there is no such idea that only hadith in Sahih Muslim and Bukhari are Sahih. No, they have 6 Sahih. Even Bukhari himself says there are many hadiths Sahih that I haven't mentioned. Plus, they have many hadiths about Imam Mahdi. Just the name of Al-Mahdi is not there. At least in the versions that we know, maybe the name is not there, but there are hadiths that outstanding commentators, shurrah of Sahihain, they said these relate to Al-Mahdi. For example, this hadith that I read for you from Abu Hurairah about Nuzul of Isa ibn Maryam. And Rasulullah said, how would be your condition when Son of Mary comes down, he descends, and your Imam is from you? Okay, this hadith is in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. It's obvious it's about Imam Mahdi. When is Jesus going to come? In other Sunni books, they have mentioned that this is in the time of Al-Mahdi, and that person that Jesus is going to say his prayer behind him is Al-Mahdi. For example, Ibn Abi Shaybah quotes from Ibn Sirin, Mahdi is from this ummah, and he is the one that Jesus would follow him in Salat. Abu Na'im, Ibn Abi Amdani quotes from Huzaifa that Jesus comes in the time of Al-Mahdi. Fathul Bari, which is commentary of Sahih Bukhari, talks about Jesus saying his prayer behind Al-Mahdi. Umdatul Qari, which is another commentary of Sahih Bukhari, says the same thing. So you shouldn't be just concerned about the name or title. It's the idea. I don't know what was the reason they didn't mention the name, but the idea is there, and in many other books. Or in Sahih Muslim, the same thing that we had about Al-Mahdi, that someone says to Mahdi, give me, Mahdi a'tani, and he says, khudh. Okay, we have in Sahih Muslim this hadith. The name of Mahdi is not there, okay, but the same idea is there. Or the idea of army reaching Baida and the earth would swallow them. This is in Sahih Muslim from Aisha, but the name of Mahdi is not there. So this is not an issue. Inshallah, we will talk about what Ibn Khaldun has said in the next session, and then we go to the next topic. I stop here so that there is time. If you have questions, if you have comments, inshallah we can take them. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Thank you very much, Sheikh.
You're welcome.
I think we do have some questions, and I'm just going to call upon those students so they can ask their questions out loud if possible. I think we have a question from Brother Zulfikar. Brother Zulfikar, if you'd like to ask your question.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I have two quick technical questions. One of them is, you mentioned Kitab al-Arba'a. I'm just wondering how many of those 400 hadiths we actually have left in our current tradition. And the second question is, I'm just wondering generally from all the books that you've mentioned, how many of those are readily available in Farsi? I'm just wondering roughly, are a lot of them available in Farsi or just...
In Farsi or English?
Farsi.
Yes. Yeah. So we have Usul Arba'mi'a and Kutub Arba'a. Usul Arba'mi'a means 500 principles. We call them principle because Asl means principle. But Asl was a title for collections of hadith. So narrators of hadith used to have collections. Some of them were maybe few, for example, topics, some maybe one topic. So different lengths, 400. These were available to Kulaini, to Sheikh Saduq, Sheikh Tusi. So we have them through these books, but we don't have many of them distinctly available today, unfortunately. But the good thing is that Sheikh Kulaini, Sheikh Tusi and Sheikh Saduq have brought those hadiths in their books. So alhamdulillah, we have them. It's not that we lost everything. Maybe some of them we lost, but most of them we have. The only thing is we don't have them separately. Some of them we have, some of them we don't have. But alhamdulillah, with the great work that they did, they preserved for us these hadiths. And about Farsi, yes, most of, not all, most of these books are available in Farsi, especially the major works are available in Farsi, but many of the sources are still only in Arabic. May Allah bless you. Ahsant.
Thank you, Sheikh. Sister Sahar, I believe you have a question.
Yes. Can you hear me well?
Yes. Bismillah.
Okay, Sheikh, you mentioned that all the hadith are mutawatir and common between Shia.
Not all of them. We didn't say all of them.
I just want to ask if the hadith you mentioned are of strong sanat, or that's a different criteria to study.
Yeah. Tawatur has two types. Tawatur lafzi, tawatur ma'navi. Sometimes hadith with the same wording is mutawatir. Sometimes wording might be different, but the idea is mutawatir. Hadith which we have about Imam Mahdi in general, not all the details, but someone from progeny of the Prophet in Akhir al-Zaman would come, would fill the earth with justice after being filled with injustice, etc. This is mutawatir. But not every single issue that are mentioned in the hadith are mutawatir. Okay? So the main ideas are mutawatir, but some topics, as I said, are agreed upon, although they are not mutawatir because we have many hadiths about them. Some issues may be controversial, but the idea itself is mutawatir. May Allah bless you.
Where does Sanat stand in this hadith?
Yeah, so if it is mutawatir, then we don't need sanad because means every generation has so many times reported that you don't need to bother about individual narrators. But if it is not mutawatir, then we have to verify every narrator of hadith. And this is where issue of sihha comes. So when Sunni say these hadiths are sahih, means that they have verified the narrators of hadith. Not that every hadith is verified, but there are many hadiths which are sahih, some are mutawatir. Because as I told you, there are at least in Muntakhab al-Athar 100 topics, means 100 things that come under al-Mahdi. Okay, so we don't want to say for all the 100 we have mutawatir. Do you understand?
Yes, that's clear. Thank you.
You're welcome. May Allah bless you.
Next we have Sister Ruqayya Alavi, I think. Sister, you have a question?
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
A very technical question. You mentioned the sun rising from the west.
Yes.
And I am unclear whether this is sort of the commencement of Qiyamah or the rise or the reappearance of Imam Mahdi.
Yeah. Inshallah, we will talk about Zuhur later. But some say that literally sun is going to come from the west. Some want to say it means, or maybe in addition to that, that maybe the sun of truth would come from the west. So maybe there would be believers and truth seekers from the west who would help Imam Mahdi. For example, Ayatollah Mutahhari in one of his speeches close to the time of revolution, he gave this kind of interpretation that maybe this point that we have that sun comes from the west is about, something great happening in the west. So we should take it with al-ma'na al-zahiri unless we have a proof that we suggest that it is symbolic. So we should say it means physical sun rising from the west, unless we have a proof and evidence that we take it in a symbolic language.
Shukran, Sheikh.
May Allah bless you.
We'll take one final question, I think, from Brother Mustafa, who has a question.
Yes.
Brother Mustafa, are you there to ask the question?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I'm very sorry for came late. I'm very sorry. This is my first time in your class, Sheikh. Jazakumullah khairan.
May Allah bless you.
I have two questions, but I don't know maybe this question related to your topic because I didn't start with the beginning. I didn't start from the beginning. The first question says that can we establish the birth of Imam Mahdi with the narration, with the hadith?
Sorry.
That is number one.
Sorry.
Can we,
I didn't get your question. I didn't understand.
Okay. Can we establish the birth of Imam Sulaiman Sharif with the hadith?
Yes.
That is the first question. The second one is that do you have any package for us about the Imam Mahdi of Ahmadiyya?
Yes.
I'm very sorry. Jazakumullah khairan.
Yeah. So about the birth of Imam Mahdi, as I said, we will have a special session. I gave you the list of the topics. In this session, we talked about the framework in the hadith, general things that are in it. Then about birth, about zuhur, about ghaiba, about his governance. We will have a specific discussions, and most of it would be based on the hadith again.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Yeah, welcome. About Ahmadiyya, yeah, so because they are aware of the topic of Al-Mahdi, but unfortunately they have misapplied. They have misapplied to Mahdi to Jesus, while these are two separate. And even some of them, then they apply Isa to their own leaders. So, but this shows that even them are aware that there is Mahdi and Jesus come in Akhir al-Zaman with Mahdi. No one, is a little bit familiar with Islamic hadith unless has heard this. The thing is that when it comes to applying it, they may make mistake. Even we have had in the past some good people that they thought they are Mahdi. Ayatollah Mutahari in one of his lectures said that there were some pious people from progeny, for example, of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. They were very nice people, and then people said you are Mahdi, and then they were themselves confused. We had some Mahdis in the Sunni world. There are already some Mahdis who have claimed that they are Mahdi. These are misapplications, but what we can understand from all this is that the idea in principle was known to all. Yes.
Jazakumullah khairan.
May Allah bless you. Thank you.
We have Brother Syed Kazmi who has a question related to today's
Yes.
discussion.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you, sir?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, brother.
So I have a question regarding two of the points that you have mentioned. I got through your general framework that you were trying to showcase in this session. I really liked it. The first thing is about the uproot of injustice from the earth and the plantation of the justice by the Imam Mahdi. So can you elaborate a bit more on it, because we can see that in today's world, specifically the generation Z and the upcoming new generation is a bit more ignorant about Islam, and it's like getting a more injustice type of world where people who don't know technology are getting easily scammed, or who are not into a lot of religion, they are like easily getting manipulated by others. So can you elaborate more upon that point?
About justice?
Yeah, about the uproot of the injustice.
Yeah. So this is inshallah discussed in future. We will talk about Zuhur and governance of Imam Mahdi inshallah, and we will explain this. But this is one of the ideas that you find in many Sunni and Shia hadith, that Rasulullah said that he would fill the earth with qist wa adl, with social justice and equity, kama mula'at or ba'dama mula'at. Many of them say kama, in the same way that the earth is filled with injustice. Some say after it is filled with injustice. This is one of the most outstanding things in the agenda of Imam Mahdi, to combat injustice, especially social injustice, and establish qist, which we said in the first session was something that all the messengers tried to establish. لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط. All the messengers wanted to help people so that people establish qist. But people were not ready.
Yeah.
But this mission will be accomplished in end of time, when people are ready to help Imam Mahdi, because Imam Mahdi is not going to do it only by himself miraculously. لَيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. People should stand up and establish social justice, and Imam is going to lead them, not Imam is going to do everything alone.
Yeah, that's the thing I want to know.
Ahsantum.
Again, and the last question to you is about the rising of sun from the west.
Yes.
As soon as you told about it, I just started Googling and I have found out a few articles about it. It is known as the retrograde motion, in which many planets like Mars and Venus have also gone through the rising of sun from east to west to east. So it is specifically mentioned that NASA has also confirmed it is a possibility, according to probability and statistics, that there is a possibility that one day by the rotation by the opposite rotation by the starting of the opposite directional rotation of the earth, the phenomena can be possible. On paper it is possible, but like on a practical scale, like we are like living in the on the earth, it cannot be done by human. It is a mathematical thing which would eventually come true on the specific day Allah chooses.
Yeah.
Basically. So can you elaborate more upon that?
Yeah, as I said, this is what we talk in future, but if we take it literally, it means that physically sun one day would rise from west.
Yeah.
Means where normally we see the sun is setting, in one day sun comes back from where next day set. Okay, this is literally, and this is possible.
Yeah.
But it can also mean something different. It can mean that maybe because sun stands for truth, for light. So maybe a time would come that people who are standing for truth would be coming from the west. Maybe mu'mineen from different traditions work hand in hand, and the main strength comes from the west. Therefore we should not be hopeless about anything and say, this place is so corrupt, that place is so corrupt, we have no hope. Who knows? Maybe from where you don't have any hope, you see the best supporters of the truth would come. Maybe some of them already are there. So it is also possible. I'm not saying this is the meaning, but it's possible that this can be also the meaning.
Possible.
Yeah.
Actually, this thing actually hit at me when I actually saw listened in one of the hadith in one of the majlis I went in Hyderabad. In that they were talking about the Maulana was specifically talking about the hadith, and the Maulana said that how the Imam Mahdi has turned the direction of the sun. So is it related to something like that, or some type of event happened on that specific day of hadith?
That is the event of Raddu Shams. Raddu Shams is different from this. Raddu Shams is that, according to some hadith, sun came back, not that rising from the west. Sun was made, ghurub, and then came back so that they can say their prayer in time. This is Qissatu Radd al-Shams. Rad means return.
Yeah, and so can you a bit explain more about
This-
the rhythm?
Yeah, I explained. This has nothing to do with Imam Mahdi. This is a story reported in books of hadith that once, because for example, in some version, for example, the Prophet was, sleeping on the lap of Imam Ali, and Imam Ali didn't want to awake him, so for the salat was getting late, for example. Then sun came back. So, but this has nothing to do with Imam Mahdi.
One last thing, the Laqab of Imam Mahdi, the Amir al-Mu'minin, I listened somewhere, it just struck me in my mind, that the title Amir al-Mu'minin will also be given to Imam al-Mahdi.
No. No, actually we had this hadith last week that Imam Sadiq was asked about this, and he said no one other than Imam Ali would be called Amirul Mu'minin. He would be called Baqiyatullah, not Amirul Mu'minin.
Oh, okay, thanks. Thank you so much.
أحسنتم. May Allah bless you inshallah. التماس الدعاء.
Jazakallah.
أحسن.
Inshallah.
في أمان الله. التماس الدعاء. Sister Zarmina, is there anything you want to announce?
No, all I wanted to just say is that because obviously we've already sent the list out of what we'll be discussing each week, if participants have questions regarding something which is still to come, they can email their questions to us and we'll provide them to you beforehand as well, so you already know what kind of questions they have in regards to those topics.
Yes.
Inshallah.
Yes. Yeah, anything that is a concern for you or you want to know more and you want to make sure that it's included in discussion, please send them in advance so that we don't miss them.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sheikh.
Thank you.
It's 5 o'clock and I think we should probably end that.
Thank you. التماس دعاء. Maybe we can end with دعاء فرج. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. التماس دعاء.